Happy Canadian National Film Day.
Nope, that's not right. Oh, just follow my lead on this one. I know what I'm doing.
Okay. No, maybe it's Happy Film Day of
Day of
Canada. Happy Film Day of Canada.
Actually, it's Happy National Canadian Film Day. Okay?
The moose is right. It's
Happy National Canadian Film Day.
How did you get in?
I don't know.
It's hot in here, eh?
Hi, everyone. My name is Wendy Donnan, and I'm the Executive Director and co-founder of the Oakville Festivals of Film and Art. We really hope you enjoyed the classic comedy Meatballs. And whether it was a trip down memory lane for you or the first time you saw it, the film's always fun. And it really suits the National Canadian Film Day theme, Feel Good. And as well, especially now, it's really wonderful to be able to laugh and enjoy one of the funniest and most popular Canadian films of all time. OFFA is honored to be partnering with Reel Canada and the National Canadian Film Day to deliver one of the largest virtual film screenings in the country, over 1,000 live community screenings across Canada today. Now, before we head into the much anticipated Q&A with Ivan Reitman, Jack Blum, and Kate Lynch, I would like to announce that the Oakville Film Festival will be run virtually from June 23rd to 29th and also available across Canada. Over 70 films over 7 days, live Q&As provide the magic and give you the chance to interact with filmmakers in real time. And you have 7 days to watch everything. Check out OFFA.ca for more details. We begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. As settlers, we are so grateful for the opportunity to meet here and thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Long before today, there have been Aboriginal peoples who have been the stewards of this place. We acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for being stewards of this traditional land. We also acknowledge the Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Ojibwe Chippewa peoples. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place and the contributions that the Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples have made both in shaping and strengthening our community and our country. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce Jennifer Valentyne, our host for the event. With her great sense of humor and enthusiasm, Jennifer is no stranger to interviewing celebrities. We've all enjoyed her smiling face for over 23 years as the host of Breakfast Television, the Live Eyes segment with Global News, Metro Toronto, and The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. She's a celebrity in her own right, and behind the scenes, she's also a digital media producer and content creator who continues to deliver her passion to entertain. Please welcome Jennifer Valentyne.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Jennifer Valentyne, and I'm joining you from Reel Canada. I'm so excited to be here tonight on National Canadian Film Day and to be able to speak with you and some very special guests from the movie Meatballs. Today is National Canadian Film Day, which means that Canadians from across the country and even around the world are watching Canadian films and celebrating the work of the amazing filmmakers working here. Now, before we get to our Q&A with our special guests, I want to thank some of our sponsors for tonight's event. Telefilm Canada, Netflix, Bell Media, CBC, and Encore Plus. Now, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our guests for tonight. We'll be joined by actors Kate Lynch, who plays Roxanne, and Jack Blum, who plays Spaz, and of course, director Ivan Reitman. But first, we're going to show you a brief video to introduce our guests. Here you go.
Jack Blum began his professional life as an actor, appearing in dozens of Canadian films and television shows. And, with his partner and collaborator Sharon Corder, went on to write and produce for some of this country's most celebrated dramatic television series. Co-founder of Reel Canada and National Canadian Film Day, he is a longtime champion of Canadian cinema. Kate Lynch is an award-winning actress of film, television, and stage, as well as a theater director, teacher, and playwright. With more than 65 films and television shows to her credit, she has appeared in such well-loved programs as Anne of Green Gables, Saving Hope, Degrassi: The Next Generation, and This Is Wonderland. As a theater director, she has worked with some of this country's most prominent theater companies, including the Shaw Festival, the Blythe Festival, and Théâtre Passe Muraille. Watch for her most recent appearance in the feature film Spinster, opposite Chelsea Peretti. Czechoslovakian-born, Canadian-raised Ivan Reitman played a crucial role in defining big-budget comedy films of the 1980s and 90s. An officer of the Order of Canada, he is the director-producer of over 75 films which have collectively grossed billions at the box office. In 2010, Reitman was nominated for an Oscar for his work as producer on Up in the Air. Reitman and his family have supported Canadian cinema through countless pivotal means, including donating the land that is home to the TIFF Bell Lightbox, now appropriately named Reitman Square. Throughout his illustrious career, Reitman has distinguished himself as a strong supporter of Canadian talent, a master of comedy, and one of the most influential filmmakers of his generation.
Oh, it's so exciting to have you here to talk about the movie Meatballs, and it makes me feel like a kid again. I rewatched it again yesterday, and if you were lucky enough to be able to go to camp in the late 70s, early 80s, I really think this is what camp is about. Of course, times have changed, and I'm sure movies have changed so much, and but it was really a sign of the times. Now, I'm going to start off with a question for our panelists, but if you have any questions, just please put them into the YouTube chat, and we're going to do our best to answer as many as we can. And feel free to include your name because we want to give you a shout out. So, Ivan, of course, we're going to start off with you. And let's just start off from the beginning. Hello, you're coming to us from sunny California?
Yes, look, I'm feeling bad because here it is, April the 21st, and you just had 2 inches of snow there. Anyway,
Yes.
It's pretty good here.
I was noticing that you have a bit of a tan, and I'm a wee bit jealous. But yeah, we did have snow in the springtime, but it melted very, very quickly. So not too bad, and this makes us all feel better. So what made you decide to make this film?
Well, it's my first film, actually, and I was working on Animal House, and I had been hoping to direct that movie, and I realized that producing wasn't satisfying to me alone, and I needed to find something else to do. And I called up my good friends Dan Goldberg and Len Blum, and sort of told them we ought to make a film, and we ought to make it. This was in March, I think, I can't remember what year, 1987 or something. And I said, let's start making a film this summer. We all went to summer camp, so let's make it about that. And perhaps you can find a camp that we can go to and really shoot while the kids are still there. And it really happened very quickly. And by August the 1st of that year, we were filming up in Halliburton.
In Halliburton, because when I put it out on social media, I had so many people messaging me saying, "Oh, that was filmed in Halliburton and I grew up there, and it was at a camp called White Pines."
That's right.
How did you film it at White Pines? Was there actual camp going on, or was it shut down for you to shoot the movie?
It was camp was going on. You know, there's something like 300 campers. We happened to go there because I think Dan and Len went there and knew the owners of the camp and sort of somehow talked them into it.
So, was this your camp experience? This movie?
A little bit. We had all gone to. I went to different summer camps, and I had never actually attended White Pine, but it's a very beautiful camp, as you can see in the film. And I think it's a compendium of the kinds of things that and the experiences that we had growing up in summer camps, and we try to put a really good story to the whole thing.
And you really did. You put a great story, and it had a little bit of everything. Like I could, going to camp myself and being a camp counselor, I could totally relate to so many things, especially the pranks.
Yeah, look, there's the pranks. To me, it's the spirit of the kids when they're in big groups. Particularly the dining hall experience, or sitting around in large groups around the campfire, or it was competitive, and it was really loving amongst all the kids.
And of course, the counselors hooking up, which I
happened.
never did, but other counselors did, but I never did.
Good for you. Well, maybe not.
I gotta go back in time. But we have a question from the audience. So for you, Jack, and for you, Kate, what is it like to watch yourself in the film now?
You go, Kate.
Oh, dreadful. It's thrilling to watch the film, but it was. I think was it 1979, Ivan?
We shot it in 1978, and it was released in 79.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
A few years ago. But it was really fun watching those clips because it's so hackneyed, a cliche, but we were so young.
You were a baby. Were you 17, 18?
Well, no. Thank you. I was a little older than that. But I think I was 28 or 9 or something like that. But
okay.
Really, it is a long time ago.
But it was a lot of our first film, and for that reason, shooting felt like summer camp. We were staying in a lodge. The company sort of took over this lodge, and there was as many pranks and hijinks and craziness going on at the end of the day after the shoot as there were in front of the camera. There were all-night poker games. There were all kinds of things. I remember grabbing a canoe in the middle of the night and getting out on the water with one of my cast members, I will say. At least more than once. There was a lot of fun that happened.
Jack, you played such a great nerd.
So much.
Where did you get your inspiration?
I can tell you precisely where I got it, because some of you may know I was also the casting director, and we were having a lot of trouble finding Spaz. And at one point, Dan Goldberg and I came to Ivan. You may remember this, Ivan, and said, we've got the guy. He gave a fantastic audition. You have to see him. And you looked at the picture and you said, no, that's not the guy. And we said, you got to read him. And you agreed, and he came in, did a very funny audition. Dan and I were killing ourselves. He left, and you said, no, he's not the guy. He's way too good looking. And then you turned to me and said, do you want to read for it? And I did, and and I just did exactly what that other guy had done. Honestly, it's the truth, and it worked out. So thank you for that, Ivan.
I think the key to the character, though, was always the glasses with the tape holding them together.
But that happened on the set. Do you remember? That happened like 2 seconds before you rolled camera for the first shot of the movie. Yes, it was. You said, wait a minute, get some tape. Put some tape on the glasses. Honestly, it came out just like that from you. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. And similarly, when we were filming The Father on Family Day, 2 seconds before, you said, put tape on his glasses too. You were rocking it.
You mentioned that you were involved with the casting, and a lot of Canadians in Meatballs. So you had an open casting call, and you were surprised how many people actually came out to be an extra or in the movie somehow.
Well, we saw 1,100 young people in 3 days, and then showed them to. I think we picked like 80. Ivan, you called back about 80 of them, and you saw them in groups of 9 or 10, and you had them improvise, and you had them do stuff, and you threw stuff at them. And out of that 80, you ended up casting like 8 that actually ended up in the movie.
Yeah, they were mostly the older kids, right, as I remember?
Correct, yeah. And the other camp, the kids in the rich kids camp.
We were lucky because camp was going on, and I was casting. I would see a bunch of kids, or a couple of kids from just doing their normal camping stuff. And I said, look, can you be in our film for a day? And, they thought that was a great thing to be in a movie. But then after about an hour of hanging around doing the same thing and waiting most of the time, they thought it was better to just go to camp. It was a little harder to get into large groups, but it worked out. They're proud when they finally saw it.
Can I say something about one of those extras? Years later, Sharon and I are writing and producing television. We were coming up with a show called Traders, and the writer we were working with was David Shore. And David Shore, Ivan, was in Meatballs as an extra. He's you can see him behind Brenda when Brenda's trying to get Crockett to dance with her. David Shore, as a very young man, as a camper, is in the background.
Hi, David. Wherever you are.
Ivan, I want to know, how did you know Bill Murray?
Well, I was very fortunate because before Animal House, I was asked to produce a show in New York. I mean, I actually called up the National Lampoon magazine, and I had done a show with the great Canadian Doug Henning, the magician. We went to McMaster together, like many of the people who were part of this movie, and as a result, it ended up on Broadway and became quite a hit. It was really the first success that I had, and using that, I called up the National Lampoon magazine. I just saw who the publisher was and just cold called them, and I said, "Look, I'm doing this show on Broadway, and I'd like to make a movie because that's what I really want to do, and would you be interested?" And he called me in because he had seen the show and he said, "Look, everybody's calling me about movies, but would you like to produce this show?" Because they had a show called the National Lampoon's Radio Hour that had all the stars that you come to know as a result of Saturday Night Live, but this is many, many years beforehand. And in the show that I ended up producing were Gilda Radner and John Belushi and Bill Murray, Brian Doyle Murray, and Harold Ramis. So I got to know this extraordinary group of comedians, actors, and improvisers of with extraordinary abilities. And I got to know Bill through that. Lorne Michaels came along and hired most of our cast for Saturday Night Live, that very first company. And fortunately for me, Bill Murray had not been cast for that. And I called him up, and then I kept calling him up. He was playing baseball, I think, in the summer, and thinking that he was going to join the second year of Saturday Night Live. And it's almost a famous story how hard it was to get him to commit to this movie, even though he was only playing baseball. And he actually committed to doing the movie the day before we started shooting. And I think he ended up coming up to Halliburton by the second day. This is when I remember he arrived. And thank God he did. And it really made a big difference.
Good score. Kate, working with Bill, were you nervous at all? I thought you were a lot younger in that movie. I think it's because you have such a youthful appearance. You look so young. But were you nervous working with Bill Murray?
Yeah, I was tremendously nervous, but he just kept you laughing all the time. So it the nerves went away pretty fast. And he likes to, you don't know what's going to come next. And I really like working that way. So yeah, that was great.
Very spontaneous. Yeah. We have a question from the audience. Yay! Me and my fam watch Meatballs every year at the beginning of the summer. Can you tell us about the best unfilmed pranks or hijinks that went on behind the scenes? So not from the movie, things that we might not have seen.
Over to
I
you.
don't remember everything. Jack, you remember everything. You go.
Ivan, this might be painful for you, but I remember the day the crew threw you into the water.
Hey, well, that wasn't painful. That was just wet.
It was all in good. We were just running. We went out. A few of us went out with Bill, drove to his cabin. He was in his own cottage down the road, and it was Keith Knight, the late Keith Knight, Oliver Shullum, and a couple of the gals, and we were having a late night party, and it was very late. Got to his place. He said, "We'll take the boat out." We all got in the boat. And I swear Keith got in the boat, big fella. There were already 5 of us. I think the boat was designed for 2. And we pushed out, and the boat sank like a stone. And we all went straight into the water. So, adventures like that. And then we were up at 6 a.m. for whatever the call was. But as I say, awfully good fun.
Did it take the whole summer to film? How long were you there?
We were there. Well, we got there. I think the last week of July for prep, and we started shooting. I think August the 3rd, if I remember correctly. I remember it because I think we started shooting about 3 days before Animal House opened, and it sort of set this real. It set a goal for me in terms of trying to get up to that stature as an excellent comedy movie. We shot for until almost the beginning of October. I mean, the campers had long left, and we stayed there for about a month. I guess. No, it couldn't have been that long because, as I remember, we only had 31 days of filming to do.
Wow. Not very long.
No. And
we have another. Oh, sorry.
It made me very nervous. I think most of the cast at that time thought, boy, this guy's really nervous, because it was really my first. I had done a small film before that, but it was really my first film with a crew, and and there's literally hundreds of people in every shot, and it took me a while to sort of get the rhythm of it, and I just had to learn. And I mean, at some point, Bill Murray put his arm around me and he said, you should relax a little bit. It's going pretty good. and he was right. And it was a wonderful thing that he did to me. But
I'll tell you, Ivan, you might not remember, but you were actually looser than you know, because you were saying stuff like, let's do a scene on the tennis court. Can you guys come up with a scene on the tennis court? And we would run off and write something, and you would shoot it. And that happened more than once in the course of the show. You were really just picking stuff up and making use of the energy of the cast. I thought it was pretty impressive.
Also, Ivan, I'm going to weigh in and say that with all due respect for Animal House, I think you made a better movie because your movie has a lot of heart. You really let Meatballs have a huge amount of heart. And I think
it was thanks to the scripts that were written and the people, and it's finally. I learned that the key to the movie was really the relationship between Bill Murray and Chris Makepeace, the young campy who was sort of just showed up, and they befriended each other, and that brought a lot of emotion to the story, and balance the silliness and the pranks and all that kind of stuff. And we had, much like Animal House, where we had all gone to university, whether we were in a fraternity or not, we had a sense of what that was like. And all of us who had written on this movie, on Meatballs, had really attended summer camp for many, many years, had loved it, and tried to distill those really wonderful personal experiences into a film that people could remember back their own.
Yeah. I love to hear that you thought, hey, let's do a scene on the tennis court. Was there a lot of that, just being spontaneous and improvising throughout the film because you had such a short time period to get it finished in?
Yes, there was a lot of improvisation, particularly within the scenes that were written out. I remember Bill Murray calling me up the day before the sort of it just doesn't matter scene, and he wrote that speech out, and I just decided to cover it with 3 cameras, which was a lot for us. We almost never did that because we only really had 2 cameramen, and I didn't tell the camp, everybody that. We had the whole camp, really. There was about 300 people in that shot. And I just said, just do it. Let's go. And we'll record you and record you with the people. And the reactions were very spontaneous, and it really did work. Except for the fact that he blew his voice, Bill did, on his the very first take, because he was so charged up, and he had written this stuff, and it was kind of goofy and funny and effective. And I think he got carried away by this live audience, the campers, reacting to it.
I remember well that you didn't. None of us knew what was going to happen. We were all saying, "What was this? Who knows?" There were rumors. Nobody knew, and you got us in there, and you put Bill in front of us, and it really was fun. It was a ballsy thing to do, right? It was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun, and we just covered by kept doing it, and I just kept moving the cameras on different people to get a fresh, coverage on everybody as quickly as I could.
Almost like learning as you're going.
It was
your early years.
It was for everybody, and it was for me. I'm really happy that it worked out as well. I mean, having Bill Murray was like having this remarkable engine, at the head of the car a little bit, and he's just such a brilliant comedian and such a brilliant writer and performer that he just had this wonderful topspin on all these lines that sort of made stuff come alive. And I learned very quickly that I had to be nimble on this movie, and it helped me for my whole career. I learned how to do improv more by virtue of sort of producing the National Lampoon Show and watching firsthand that remarkable cast that could just do anything and really capture an audience remarkably. And I felt we should do some of that in the film to make it come alive. But most of all, I had a secret weapon. I really had Bill. It was, thank God.
Yeah. Amazing, and everyone, an amazing cast. I'm loving the questions from the audience.
Sorry, Jennifer. Yeah? Bill was also generous with us as young performers, and we would be trying to write a scene, and he spent time with us and to say, no, like you've got to get really physical, and he would really give us a lot of tips about how to turn it into stuff. So we were grateful to him for that too.
Oh, I love hearing that. Question from the audience. How many takes did you need to do the cup scene? Spaz.
I don't think there were very many. There weren't very many takes of anything. We were moving pretty fast.
You didn't have time.
I think the cup scene was done in about no more than 3 takes.
Yeah, it was pretty fast.
It was all a continuous shot.
And those were the days of all the action, all of those sequences of all the contests and the races and the wrestling, and we had to get so much done in I don't know how many days it was, but there was no time for mistakes. It was just move on.
Okay, another question from the audience. This one's for Ivan. Tell us about McMaster and the writers.
Well, Dan Goldberg and I became really good friends, I think, about the second or third year of McMaster. I think I directed Little Abner. And on Little Abner, he played the Lonesome Polecat who starts the show. And Doug Henning, I think, was one of the cast members. Dan's best friend was Len Blum in Hamilton. I wasn't from Hamilton. I grew up in Toronto. But, I stayed in a crappy apartment downtown Hamilton, and I was in the music department there and wanted to do something musical. So I just picked that show. But we also made films at McMaster. We did a movie called Orientation, which became quite a well-known short in Canada. We won a bunch of awards, and it was about the first couple of days of a freshman university student actually at McMaster. And Dan Goldberg was the star of that. And so we bonded. I remember I used to stay over in his basement as often as I did in my own apartment because his parents lived really close to the university.
I'm loving these audience questions. This one, Kate, this is good. Where do you think your character Roxanne would be right now? Would she still be living with Bill Murray?
Wow, there's a question and a half. Yeah, but I think she went into, okay, what line of work did she, because of her relationship with Bill, she went into lion taming as a career.
Okay.
Yeah, she was well prepared for that.
I love this question too, because I would never think of asking this, but especially if you're from Halliburton or cottage country, what were the black flies and mosquitoes like during the shoot?
Oh no, it was too late for them.
It was late in the summer.
Oh, was it?
We
Okay,
got
good.
that.
That's Michael from Whitby. He wanted to know.
But
Know if
Michael, this.
if you got bit.
But tell Michael this. You
Yeah.
don't go in any lake in Ontario after September 1st. It's mighty cold in that water. So we didn't have the black flies, but we had some cold swimming water.
It would have been a polar bear dip for sure. Okay, so I've heard there is, another question. Reshoots. So we've heard that there were reshoots after everything was finished. You actually had to go back up and reshoot some stuff.
Well, we didn't go back up.
No.
I think I was cutting the movie in Montreal because my partners were there, and I became part of that company for a while. And we cut the movie together. It seemed pretty good. The film was as yet unsold, and I decided I would take it down to Hollywood, and to see if we could sell it. And I went to the very first screening. I snuck in the back of the distribution people, and I could tell right away, because I had never screened the movie for others except for myself. I thought it wasn't very good, and it wasn't very good. They turned it down, and I thought, oh my God, it was way too long for what it was. It was at that time about 105 minutes, and that's where I really focused on where the film should be. And I stopped the screen. I mean, I got turned down by that place, and I decided not to show it anymore and took it back to Montreal. And within, I think, 24 hours back to Montreal in the editing room, I cut about a half hour out of the movie.
Wow.
And it was down to about 75 minutes. And then I remember calling the writers and saying, okay, we need to do 4 or 5 scenes. And we didn't have any money. I mean, the film was privately financed, and we'd already spent our money. But we decided that we would shoot some scenes. And having screened it for even just an audience of 3 or 4 men, I could tell where the story had to be. And it's what I was saying earlier, which is the relationship between Tripper, Bill Murray's character, and Chris Makepeace. And we built the set, which is Tripper's cabin, and shot about 4 scenes in one day. And we needed to show the young guy, the Makepeace character, trying to run away from camp because he was humiliated as a result of, the kids making fun of him in the soccer game or whatever. And just those 5 scenes and a couple of new voiceover lines, and just cutting the stuff that didn't come up to snuff out of the film was an extraordinary lesson for me, which I used, ever since. And we decided that we would try to sell it again, and we set up a screening at the Plitt Century Plaza, which is a large theater, no longer exists in Century City in California. And a studio actually bought an ad for us to get the right to be the first negotiations if they liked the movie. And the place was packed. It was the same ad that you learned to love, with the sort of drawings of all the cast members. And we had about 5 offers for the movie after the screening. It was just transformed from that moment. The audience applauding all the time through, and it's terrific.
That is so interesting to hear about those reshoots. Something that we didn't know. Very interesting. And something again that you said that you've applied and learned from, and applied it to everything else that you've worked on. Another question from the audience.
Comedy is really difficult, and you never quite know what you have until you put it in front of an audience. And in films, you have to get the movie finished before you put it in front of an audience, and then you have to be strong enough to realize, okay, here's how we're gonna. This didn't work, and I just got into this whole thing with the group that I ended up working with for about 40 years, where we would have these wonderful dinner meetings after the screening, and immediately start talking about what worked, what didn't work, how to change it, and to be really careful with what we were taking out and what we thought we might try to put in, and not to feel that there's a failure because things don't quite work yet. That it takes time.
Yeah, well, you talk about what works and what doesn't work. It's like comedians who have their routine and they just show up unexpectedly. I know Jerry Seinfeld does at Gotham in New York. On a Tuesday night, he'll just show up and say, I want to try new material, because he wants to know what it's going to be like before he takes it on the road. Same with Saturday Night Live. That's why they have the rehearsal. I got a chance to see it when I was in New York right before the pandemic. It was a dream come true, and they have that rehearsal, so they know, is it going to work with the audience? So I guess that works with so many different things in life, where you want to test it out.
Well, especially a comedy, because
if nobody's laughing, you're in trouble.
It's very straightforward if people are not being affected by it. And you can feel, by the way, I think I've since tested more dramatic films, and it's not about the laughter, it's about the energy in the room. And you don't need even a huge crowd. I've now found that just watching it with 2 or 3 strangers really rejuvenates my own opinion of what's there, both good and bad, and what doesn't work suddenly become really obvious.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about your favorite Meatballs moment. All of you. What's your favorite Meatballs moment? I know there's probably many, but what's your absolute favorite? What comes to mind?
Well, I'll tell you mine. I actually adore the scene between Jack and Keith in the tent. How far did you get with the big bin of candy? I love that scene. And it seems to me a perfect kind of meatball scene, because it's really funny and it's really about relationship and it really has a lot of heart. So that's my favorite.
Love it.
You took my answer, Kate, but slightly different reasons, just because, again, we were young and it was our first film, and that was the first night shoot. At a certain point, we'd been doing all these daytime stuff, and it's okay, we're going to go to nights. And when you shoot at night in a movie on location, it's this world that no one else is in. It's just in this bubble of lights and a crew around, and it's you guys, me and Keith in the thing. And I just remember that fantastic feeling of a little bit of magic that we were creating in the middle of the night with no one else around, and it was really, really, really fun. And we shot the scene around the campfire with the Bill Murray telling that story. It became another level of fun that I hadn't experienced, and one that didn't get into the movie, and I'll always be sad about, was one where Keith and I were sneaking up. You remember that he gets trapped under the cabin, they take his pants and put them on the flagpole. Well, Ivan shot a very long prologue to that scene where the two of us were creeping up and running and being sort of super spies, and at a certain point I would hit Keith and go flying about 30 feet in the air and land, and I was so proud that I could do that, but it never ended up in the movie.
It was part of that 30 minutes I was just telling you about.
That's right. It was 15 of them.
I have a couple of favorites. I mean, I have to say, Kate, I love your scene with Bill when you're wrestling, and I love the choreography of that scene, and him grabbing you and spanking you or biting you, and I can't even remember what happened, but it seemed, and it's something I just sort of learned. I worked with Bill about 5 times now, 6 times, and he's really wonderful when he likes the actress that he's working with and feels comfortable, as he certainly did with you. He gets very physical, and the physical just sort of enhances the humor of that scene. And so, for me, that was one of the things that I just really enjoyed going over and over and sort of working on in editing. And the other one was really the set. These things that we all did in one day, and it ended up being about 10 or 12 minutes of the movie, were the scenes with Chris Makepeace and Bill in the cabin. And it was much calmer because even though we had to shoot a lot, it was only the two of them on a set. And I love the card game scene for the Peanuts. And that was written and improvised, and I thought was very important to the story. And I just love the feeling between the two of them and the way they related to each other.
I'm going to bring up the song. Where did that song come from? Was that song was it already a camp song that you took and put in Meatballs, and it's played throughout? Are you ready for the summer? Are you ready for the sunshine?
Oh, you got it good, Jennifer. That was the great Elmer Bernstein. You know, Elmer Bernstein, one of the finest composers in the history of movies, and he knew John Landis, who directed Animal House, and so I got to meet him on that film, and became good friends with him. And I went to visit him right here in Montecito. That's why we live here right now, is thanks to him. And I just called him up. I said, "Look, I just did this small independent movie. I can't pay you. We're going to give you a piece of the movie somehow." And we did. And he took it really seriously, and he wrote these beautiful songs. "Are You Ready for the Summer" is the best remembered, because he actually got a children's chorus here in Toronto and recorded it in a studio in Toronto to the track that I think he did in Toronto as well. I can't remember now, because some of it was done elsewhere. And so that's well known. But the song that gets me is when the CITs are coming back from their camping trip, and it's this lovely romantic song that plays.
Yeah.
It is. It's a beautiful song, the one that you're talking about, and so he wrote that one as well.
Yeah, he wrote all of them with. I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember the lyricist. Very famous. He wrote "Killing Me Softly." He lives here in this town as well, or did. He's now passed away as well. But I'm sorry,
it'll come to you when we're off. That's when you'll remember who it was.
What's that?
We have IMDb now. It's we need to remember these things.
Get someone in the audience to Google that.
Yes, please. But no, I was trying to find the music because I was trying to promote tonight, and I wanted to play that song. And I found a version that Lisa Loeb had done, and it was really nice. I used that one because I couldn't find the kids one. So, but no, it's such a catchy tune, and it's so great how it's kind of played throughout the movie, even just the instrumental part. And when you hear that, you automatically remember the movie. So it's great. I want to. We had an audience question, and you guys already answered it, but they were talking about how they watch the movie Meatballs every single year at the beginning of the summer. I love hearing that. Why do you think Meatballs has become such a classic that people keep coming back to it?
Well, I would like to think that it touches an experience that probably touches their own lives, and there's something about, even it's not about families, but it's about a family of friends that going to camp, and it's an experience that many people have gone through, And it's, I think it's, and it was, there's not been that many camp movies, and most of the camp movies are all, unfortunately, are only about sex. And this one really touched a lot of different things. It was a movie that you could watch with your kids if you're a parent, and vice versa, and not be embarrassed and have a good time at.
It was also a great date movie. I can't tell you the number of people who have said to me, "Oh, my wife and I went on our first date and we watched Meatballs." It was a really good date movie.
Oh, I love hearing that. And camp is such a special place. And that's why I said if you're fortunate enough to have gone to camp and you see this movie, it brings back all those memories. And even when you're in camp, like you look at the Chris Makepeace's character, there's always that kid that didn't want to be at camp, the kid that always wanted to leave. And by the end of the summer or the end of the session, they've fallen in love with camp and they can't wait to go back to camp the next year. And those are the memories it brought back for me. I was fortunate enough to volunteer at a camp called Camp Uchagayas, and it's a cancer camp for kids here at Lake Rosso in Muskoka. And the kids just love camp so much. And it's a place where they can go, they can forget about cancer. There's a med shed, so they're getting the treatment that they need. But at camp, you can just be a kid. All your problems go away. And then even the kids, I saw it so many times, they didn't want to be there. But by the end of the session, they couldn't wait to come back and to go again. And such a special place. And watching that movie for me again, not seeing it since I was a kid myself, and rewatching it yesterday, it brought back all those memories, everything from camp, from when I was a kid, when I was a counselor, and just everything, the campfires, the stories, everything. So I think that's why it's just so special to people and why people are watching it every single summer. Does it seem like yesterday? Does it seem like it was that long ago?
I don't believe it.
It's like a long time ago to me.
It's like a long time ago. Look at us.
I know, but really, time goes by so fast. And Ivan, do you look back at your career and think, wow, what a career that you have had? Amazing. And you must be so proud of your kids.
Yes, both, well, all three of them, but one of them was not interested in show business. But Jason has made these wonderful films, and like Juno and Up in the Air, and I think I couldn't believe it. He came to me one day and said, I have this idea for a Ghostbusters sequel that I think will really work. And he and a friend of his, Gil Keenan, also a very good writer and director, wrote that draft of what is now called Ghostbusters Afterlife. And we've been dying to show this movie. It's really, really good.
Oh my God, I can't wait. I cannot wait for this movie. It's
been so frustrating for him, having to work with his dad on a movie that his dad made famous, but more importantly, he realized he did something special. And we've had to wait, a year and a half. We were supposed to originally show it in June, a year ago. And now we're coming out in November, God willing. I'm knocking wood right here. And Catherine, is a few years younger. And it's thanks to Toronto, actually, that she was able to get Working Moms on the air, first at the CBC and now on Netflix as well. So I think they're going to.
Everyone loves it. Yeah.
So.
Unbelievable.
And she's a really good writer as well, and I think they're great. The third one has a very happy life. She started as a nurse and now has had children and a child, and she said, I'm not into show business.
You're smart.
Lucky her.
That's a good life.
What did you say? You said she was happy?
Yes.
She's happy. No, you must be very proud, and you're right. We can't wait for Afterlife. It's going to be incredible. It looks incredible. But I want to thank all of you, Kate, Jack, Ivan, for doing this. This has been a really special night. I'll drink the wine now. I've been drinking water. Now I think I'll pour myself a glass of wine, but it's a little later here in Toronto than it is in California. Yes. We're almost out of time, but I want to say a big thank you to Ivan Reitman, Kate Lynch, and Jack Blum for speaking with us about the film Meatballs. And thanks to all of you for joining us and asking questions. Thank you to the Oakville Festivals of Film and Art for promoting and organizing this event with us. And finally, a huge thank you to everyone watching at home. It's amazing that we are just making it work. We're not having live events right now. It's a hard time for everyone, but look at what we're doing tonight and what we're continuing to do online. We are making this work around the world. So if you like tonight's event, don't forget to post about it on social media using the hashtag #CanFilmDay. And if you want to watch more free Canadian movies tonight or tomorrow, just head to CanadianFilmDay.ca to see everything that's available. So thanks again. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.